Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Holy Happy Hour. I'm your host, Josh, and as you guys saw in the thumbnail, today we are joined by Taylor from Gemma in the Rough, mostly on Instagram, and then we got Desirae Fuentes, who is also known as the Uncatechized Catholic. I want to mention that right away. Their stuff is in the description below, because sometimes we only have people stick around for a few minutes. Sometimes people stay for the whole show, so I want to make sure you guys knew that their info, and if you like the show, like their content, you guys can find more of it in their links below to their channels. So I am super excited about this episode. We're going to be talking about the role of women in the church, and it's mentioned in the episode, and I kind of I threw it in there, and I was like, oh, whoops, that was in my notes for like what I wanted to do in the beginning. So I want to touch on it at the beginning anyway. Was that I was having this conversation with someone, and we were talking about salvation history, which led to a conversation about how the most attacked people in the world right now are women. You have the trans movement, where it's kind of like this whole, Matt Walsh's thing of like what even is a woman, and people can't even answer that question. You have like in the same movement trying to put males in, like biological males, in female bathrooms. You also have just the empowering feminist movement that is really trying to make the role of women something it is not meant to be. And I think that this is completely the plan of the enemy. Now, I wanted to go back to Genesis and read the exact scripture that kind of sparked the interest for this conversation. And then the conversation obviously goes way more into it. But it was in Genesis, and in this one, chapter 2, verses 18. Then the Lord God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. It will make him a helper. I will make him a helper fit for him." So out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was its name. The man gave names to all the cattle and to the birds of the air and to every beast of the field. But for the man, there was not found a helper fit for him. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and while he slept, took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from the man, he made into woman and brought her to the man. The man said, "This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman." And we got talking, like I said, about woman. And one of the things that was brought up, and if you guys haven't really thought about this much, is that God could have just created a woman, could have created it out of something else, could have also created a woman out of dirt. God could have also created woman from the foot, someone to be walked over, someone to be a servant. God could have created woman from the head, someone to lead, and someone to be the head of the household and be the person that is in charge. But then God, in his infinite wisdom, created woman from the side, someone that's supposed to be there side by side, and someone that's supposed to be there to empower men to be the best they can. And that's what this whole episode's about, is this role of women. And we're going to talk about kind of three different areas. It's kind of two, but sort of three. But it's women in the domestic church, which is the home. So as a mother, as a wife, as a as a wife and a mother. So was their third one, as a wife and a mother. But then also we're going to be talking about them, women in ministry, whether that is within the church itself, like you have religious life, consecrated virgins, you have sisters and nuns, all sorts of things, or if it's just in ministry in general, like taking on catechesis roles, or taking on roles within the leadership roles within the church, like the church staff and stuff. So you guys are going to see a whole array of us talking about these different topics. But really what I would hope that someone would get out of this is that we really want to tackle two main objections or problems, I guess, in this topic, which is the one in the Catholic Church: women cannot and will not and will never be priests or bishops or the Pope. It will never ever happen. There's actually, it's mentioned in the episode, but it's like when Pope Francis says the famous line of, when they're like, "So are we living in a time where we will eventually see a woman deacon, priest, or bishop?" And he goes, "No." And it's a funny clip, but it's not meant to be degrading. It's just meant to to be truth. It's meant to be truth. And so we'll dive into that of like why women were not picked to be priests or bishops or popes, and why they weren't part of the 12 disciples. And when one of the disciples betrayed Jesus, he was replaced. And it was a pick between two different men. They didn't throw Mary in there. They didn't throw Mary Magdalene in there. They didn't throw any of these other amazing, awesome women in there. It was between two men, replaced them with another man. But we're going to be talking about what those roles are, like what that role that Mary plays in all of this, in roles like Mary Magdalene played. We're talking about St. Timothy's family and stuff. So we're going to talk about so many great roles that women play in that the priesthood being one of them, one of the problems with the role of women in the world. And then the second one is the famous verse of, and this will be the first one we'll tackle in the episode, is submit to your husbands. Wives, submit to your husbands. And so I'm really excited for that one, because that one, understandably, if that one is one you're like, oh, I hate that one. Like, I hate that one. It's so hard to do. I can't do it. That's okay. Stick with us, because we're going to get into it a little deeper. Because sometimes if you're having a hard time submitting to your husband, there's one thing we bring up later that may be what you're feeling, what you're thinking. But my hope is that women out there would see this and hopefully be empowered by Desirae and Taylor's insight to their role as women in ministry, women in their domestic church, which Desirae is married and Taylor is single. So it ended up being, I didn't even plan that out, but it ended up being perfect. So you guys aren't just listening to two married women. You have insight coming from a single young woman, and you have insight coming from a married woman that has 6 kids. And so you guys are hearing some great insights. So I'm super excited for this episode. So you guys make sure you like and subscribe and comment. And more importantly, please pray for the channel that we may make an impact on one person out there. That's the goal. If we can make an impact on one person out there, we have done our job. But I don't want to hold you guys back from any more, because I don't want to teach you about the role of women in the church. I want the women of the church to teach you about the role of women in the church. And so you guys enjoy this episode. We will see you guys upcoming soon. Just a quick announcement. Keith Nestor will be on the show soon. And before, or no, I think it's right after. Right after, we'll also be joined by Dr. Carla Broussard again. So I'm super excited about that one as well. So I hope you guys enjoy the episode. You guys leave a comment below, any questions you have, and we'll get to those. You guys can also leave any feedback you guys have as well, especially disagreement feedback. Like, we'd love to hear the disagreement so we can maybe address those concerns as well. So you guys enjoy, and we'll catch you guys next time. All right. I am here with Desirae and Taylor. And yeah, if you guys think they look familiar, it's because they do. They were here a couple months ago before I left for new staff training, and I'm glad to have you guys back. I guess I'll start with you, Desirae. How have things been going? And maybe do a quick little intro about you for anyone that's watching and is like, no, I have no clue who these two people are.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you saw my episode, my background looks very different because I moved across the country since we last spoke. I was in Arizona. Now I'm in Indiana. My husband's going to Notre Dame Law School. So we've changed our whole lives up, and it's pretty good. We are not yet fully unpacked, even though we've been here since July. So we're working on it. But I personally run Uncatechized Catholic. It is a lay apostolate of sorts that helps either cradle Catholics who were not very well catechized, or Catholics who maybe recently converted and have gone through OCIA and are sort of like, now what? I want to keep going. Where do I go? How do I keep progressing from here? I really try and hit that mid-level catechesis. So it's not the easy stuff. I expect you to have some kind of foundation there, but it's not super, super high level stuff either. I also think since our last discussion, I've officially graduated from Franciscan. I don't think I had graduated when we last discussed.
Yeah,
I actually
you hadn't graduated yet. So
yeah. So
awesome.
That's all done now. And I've just been spending my time trying to unpack and get settled. And I've very recently started posting more consistently again. And I'm working on a little super secret project that I'm really excited to share with people, but it'll be more in December, but I can talk about that.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. I could picture that room being like, this bookshelf's all unpacked and everything. Don't look at the other part of the room, but that's like my little corner here is great. It's all set up. It is a mess. Like, I mean, there's literally stacks of stuff. This is like our spare room. It's a mess. So
I have like a mountain of cardboard in various states of broken down just on the other side of my computer here. I was talking to my husband about it like last night. I'm like, we really got to get this out of here.
Oh, it's awesome. Well, I'll kick it to you, Taylor. What have you been up to? And then again, yeah, the little introduction for people who didn't see your episode, which, by the way, is the number one episode on our channel.
Yeah, my name is Taylor, or people also call me Gemma because I run Gemma in the Rough. She's
Yeah.
my patron saint, so you can call me whatever.
I literally called you Jimmy
Um,
right before we started recording this on accident.
Honestly, I don't hate it, so it's all good. Um, yeah, my background is also different because I also moved not across the country, just downstairs. So much easier. I also graduated with my associate's degree. So that was
Nice.
nice. And then, like I said, I run Gemma in the Rough on different platforms, and
Mhm.
I don't really know what it is yet. It's just a
Yeah.
space where I share whatever's on my heart, whatever's on my mind. I'm a convert, so that was kind of where I documented that journey.
Mhm. Yeah.
But especially, I know Desirae and I both went to the creators conference in Steubenville over the summer, and that kind of lit a fire in me of like, oh yeah, like I want to be here, like I want to be
Mhm.
in this space. I just don't know exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
Uh, I also had the opportunity to go to Rome for the canonizations of Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio Frassati,
Nice.
and yeah, that was really quick. It happened in, like, 2 weeks and with a bunch of people that I didn't know, and, like, I can't believe that I did that, but it was, like, the best thing
Yeah.
ever, and it just kind of, like, relit that fire in me, and so that's been really fun.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, and then if you guys don't know who I am, I'm Josh. I'm the host. So I have not done any moving aside from last time I talked to you guys. Moved into a new career, and that's been going great. And
Yeah.
so we continue as a focus missionary, which is funny because actually, as focus missionaries, typically it's like, hey, if you're a content creator, if you have a channel or anything, you cannot mention focus. You can't like you have to get stuff approved before you like uh, do an interview with somebody or whatever. And I sent my channel to them, and they were just like, "Yeah, it looks great. We're super like excited for what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing." I was like, all right. So there's no
Good.
rules. So if I break any, I don't know what rules we're breaking. So I just try
Yeah.
to avoid heresy, and I think we should be good. So yeah, well, awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys came back because we're gonna, as the title says, we're gonna be jumping into the role of women in the church and whether that's domestic church ministry and everything. And I guess I want to start just by like maybe just seeing what you guys thought of that topic in general. Obviously, you guys are women and in ministry and stuff, but when I first thought of this topic, I really kind of thought of it more so as an idea, not really knowing exactly where it would go. And I was like, yeah, this is such a great topic, especially I really truly think that women are the most attacked people in the world right now, especially spiritually attacked. I think that's what the enemy knows. Like, I'm going to go after women the most. And I think that leads in well to this topic, which is identifying like what is the role of the women in the family, in ministry, in the church. And so there's just like a good understanding for people. So if there is anyone out there, whether they're Catholic or not, they just kind of understand like, okay, cool. Like get some affirmation for what this role is that like other women, or if it's men that are struggling to explain what the role of other or like women is. But yeah, so I'll just get your guys' initial thoughts. Like, what you guys obviously you're obviously in support of the topic, but what were your guys' initial thoughts when I like asked you guys about this topic?
I think it's topical, obviously. I mean,
Hmm.
it's one of the more common things that you get. I'm sure Taylor gets the same thing that I do, where if I post sometimes it's if I just post something really basic, but if I post anything even slightly controversial, there's usually a few like Timothy 2:12, like women ought not to teach and whatever comments. And so that's
Hmm.
where I go with it because that's the thing that affects me the most. I don't fall into the other
Yeah.
modern lies of Satan traps of, not being married, being a career person, da da da
Hmm.
da 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 da. Da. But I think what the idea of a holy Catholic woman is both I don't want to say not well defined because it is well defined, but it's a broad definition. It allows for there to be a spectrum of
Hmm.
types of women on the inside, but then you have your factions that decide, like, no, the spectrum is here, but I say the spectrum is here. This is my opinion, and my opinion is fact, and therefore you're wrong
Hmm.
if you whatever. I see lots of women who have very successful careers doing really objectively good things
Hmm.
attacked all the time by
Yeah.
religious men, usually,
Mhm. Yeah.
saying things like, "You shouldn't even be working, like, where are your kids?" Stuff like that, and it's just
Yeah.
that's where my
There's yeah, there's no win. There's no win for you.
No.
Like you guys, it's like you guys go traditional, go to college, get a job, and there's certain people that would be like exactly empowering, like feminist. But then the more traditional Christian people are like all over your case. And then
Mhm.
if someone decides to go the more traditional route, then the other side is just like lighting you up. When I feel like
Yeah.
honestly for men, I think sometimes we're able to kind of we've got a set like it doesn't like you should go to college, graduate, get a job or whatever, and it's we don't have to struggle with that as much. It's interesting that they brought up Timothy because I had Second Timothy in my notes, and it's cool of Paul crediting Timothy for his faith because of the women in his life who raised him. And it's like, I am reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that lived first in your grandmother, Lois, and your mother, Eunice, and now I am sure lives in you. So
Yeah. You see
awesome.
it all the way back in the Bible, and you can see it in Dilexit Te that just came out, where Pope Leo / Pope Francis are
Hmm.
talking about the various roles of women in the church and how they're really valuable and how women squarely can be credited for
Hmm.
doing certain things. And that doesn't take away from the priestly role.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, take away from the struggles that men do have, because I think men do have immense pressure that can
Hmm.
be sassily stated as like, don't be a loser.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
that's actually like a
Hmm.
thing. Like it's a thing men
Yeah.
really struggle with. But
Yeah.
focusing on just the issue of women in the church, that's where it's at. And it's like we talked about it then, we still talk about it now. The
Yeah.
same truths are true then. The same. There's nothing new under the sun with this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. What about you, Taylor? What are your initial thoughts on the topic? Obviously, again, in support, but like, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, my initial thoughts. So, coming from the Protestant tradition that I was a part of, women and men could do equal things. So,
Hmm.
we had women pastors and that were in that role. My previous church personally had a husband and wife that were, they called them like co-pastors. And so I was always used to that. And so
Hmm.
then coming to the church, it's kind of funny because I had kind of like switched my mind about like women in that role before like
Hmm.
leaving the church. And so it was kind of easy for me to accept becoming Catholic. But
Hmm.
then for me as a single woman who works in the corporate world and, is 28, which feels ancient at this
Hmm.
point to like not be married and have 12 children. Um which I think is also really great. Like, I'm not saying that that's a bad
Hmm.
thing, but for
Yeah.
me, I have sometimes people have like put me down because of that. And
Hmm.
especially like I post on social media and some people think that women shouldn't even post on social media. And I've gotten the comments of
Yeah.
like, this is why you don't have a husband. And I was like,
No,
"Oh,
Mhm.
okay, I'm sure that's why. But so it's kind of a balance for me of like, leaving behind the idea that like, or I guess like being okay with the idea of like the male priesthood and women
Mhm.
also still being active in the church
Yeah.
versus the other side of like women shouldn't do anything and like men
Yeah.
should take all of the work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's funny that like God really put these Bible verses. This article I found was an article that then led me to a bunch of quotes. This one from Proverbs 31:26. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. So, yeah, obviously, it's just because they're not called to the priesthood and to like be the head person, the pastor, the priest of the church, doesn't mean that like you're uneducated, don't even talk. Like don't you shouldn't teach anybody anything. It's like no, actually, I think teaching is actually a major role for women, especially within the family. Personally, which I think we can go there first, kind of starting to define that role of the role of women in the family, so the domestic church. And does anyone want to take a stab at that one to kind of give their thoughts of like women in the domestic church, that the house, the role?
I think every woman is called to teach in the domestic church. And that's actually one of the objections that I see a lot, where people will
Hmm.
say, yeah, women can teach, but they teach their kids, they teach other women, they don't teach men. And as somebody who does teach the domestic church, I have 6 children for those who don't know.
Hmm.
I do that. But
Hmm.
also, there are just some individuals who have certain skill sets and certain ways of handling things that go beyond those limitations. So I think
Hmm.
every woman is called to teach in the domestic church, whether it's to her children or to just maybe it's you don't maybe you're childless and you teach
Hmm.
second grade faith formation, like those are your children and you teach
Hmm.
them.
Yeah.
That's a natural, that's a default, that's a virtually everybody does and can teach in the domestic church,
Hmm.
and it's infinitely valuable. I never remember which saint said it, but it's one of the more popular ones that was like, "If you wanna change the world, go home and love your children."
Mm.
That's that
Yeah. Yeah.
sentiment, right? Like, you do a good job taking care of the little ones that you love, and if enough people do that, you raise up this formidable
Hmm.
generation, and that's why that's the natural order of
Yeah.
things. That's why that is so powerful and so useful, and why it is simultaneously not to be diminished, right?
Hmm.
There's an extreme importance to it that's greater than anything that
Hmm.
Trent Horn or Jimmy Akin or any of these people are doing,
Hmm.
even if it's not in front of as many eyes. Like, there's an extreme intrinsic value to that,
Yeah.
but it's not the only place that women are useful in the church.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that we see that even in the secular world of like two things that women are just naturally more inclined, way more naturally inclined is nurturing and teaching. So there are way more female teachers and there's way more female nurses. And so it makes sense that at the home that the woman, that's just kind of the natural inclination would be to obviously nurture their kids, but then
Mhm.
also to teach their kids. So I know my wife teaches our kids way better than I do, unless it's in like math or music. Like my wife is way more inclined. She's way more patient, is what it is. But yeah, did you have anything to add to that, Taylor?
I mean, like I said, I obviously don't have a domestic church as far
Yeah.
as my family, but I do volunteer with a youth group. And that was something that was very new to me. And I didn't want to do it because I always joke that like teenagers are scary. And like,
Mhm.
I'm like to the age now that I can start pouring into people instead of them all pouring into me. And
Mhm.
so for me to like step into that role and like, even if it's not necessarily like teaching a lesson or like leading a Bible study, just like being there for these students that are going through something,
Mhm.
that might not seem big to me, but is really big to them at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just walking alongside them and willing to do that has been really beautiful.
Mhm.
And it's just been really, I mean, beneficial for me too, selfishly. Like I learned so much just from getting to interact and pour into these people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. When you were talking, first of all, I saw another quote that was great, but I also found that it was Mother Teresa that said that if you want to bring
Yes.
happiness to the whole world, go home and love your family, which is so true. We're doing healing the whole person. I don't know if you guys have heard of that retreat, but it's a 8 week or 10 week thing, and you go through and it's all about identifying wounds and then inviting Jesus into those and them being healed. But they specifically start for the first couple weeks with family, like where you grew up and how your family was. Because it's crazy. Like my family, looking back, I was like, man, that's pretty good. I lived in a relatively wealthy family, like middle upper class, and we traveled a lot. My parents were married until we left the house, but everything was pretty good. But then the more I've started looking into the wounds, like some of these hidden wounds, I've realized that the my parents weren't as present when I was growing up, and it's actually caused some wounds and everything. And I think that especially for women, like the mothers nurturing and loving, I would say that's the one thing in my family growing up that was maybe a little bit of a saving grace that didn't lead me just down a path of just kind of following secular worldly stuff. Is my mom was always super loving and nurturing there. The other quote I saw that I think it was with something someone said, but I just saw this. This in the domestic church, the woman reflects Mary's love, forming hearts, nurturing life, and helping faith take root in the next generation. And I just love that. It doesn't say, actually, it's like an anonymous quote. It doesn't say who said it, but I love that quote because I was truly thinking, like, as you guys are both explaining, just in the domestic church, like where society would be if men were able just to like procreate or whatever themselves and like have kids and there were only men in the world. This place would be probably like I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Purge, but that's probably what life would end up being. All the nurturing, loving aspect of everything would just go out the window. And not that men can't love and nurture, but our natural instinct, the hunt and gather and stuff we would not have as civilized of a community. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think we would either. There's definitely a like, gentle touch, which I was trying not to get into it when I was responding to the domestic home earlier, but that's sort of
Mhm.
what I was thinking is like the feminine genius, it's the favorite way to put
Yeah.
it in church speak. is it's useful in other places. Like I think men have particular skills and roles and abilities. Not that trying to be like inclusive with my language here, but like they're essentially exclusive to men, but they're not really exclusive to men. Like there is kind of a spectrum. You meet men who are like a little more effeminate without being too effeminate, and you meet women who are a little more masculine without being too masculine. It's like,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
okay, acknowledging all of that. But there are just some spaces and some things and some ways to communicate things that the way that a man is going to communicate it is just not going to cut it. And
Yeah.
I think there's some, I mean, in the conversations that I hear, there's some desire or intention or whatever it is to sort of force it into these certain roles. Like I recently, we were discussing this before the talk, had a conversation with another man about a certain topic that's still kind of going on. But the way that I approached the conversation, I tried to maintain kindness. Like I criticized this person, but I said, I'm saying this with love, and I'm saying this because I think you're humble enough to hear it. Here's a harsh truth for you. You know what I mean? And I don't think that men communicate that way. Like I have yet to see a single tweet from a man that starts with love, let me say this to you. Yet I do that all the time because that's the feminine way of communicating. That is how I let you know I am not just trying to like smack you down right now. I'm trying to be tender. I'm trying to be loving, but I'm also trying to be really straightforward and direct with the truth. Like, I don't want to pussyfoot around it. I don't want to not really say it. Like, I want to be really honest with you, but I also know there's a lack of face and voice along with this. So with love, here's how I'm going to say something to you. And there's this desire, like I said, to sort of like pigeonhole this into a certain role. Like, well, you shouldn't be saying that to me at all because you're not my wife. And it's like, no, I shouldn't be submitting to you at all because I'm not your wife. Okay, I am actually allowed to respond to you and correct you in this way precisely because I'm not your wife. Like there's a specific like and at the same time, if my husband made the same mistake, no way. No way would I talk to my husband the same way that I talk to some of these other people because I am even more like tender and loving and wanting to ensure that any feedback that I give him that may be a little bit harder to hear, like I want to do my best to not be too rude or abrasive with that feedback. You know what I mean? But it's not like women, you belong in the household. That's your role and that's it. And anything else, you're trying to usurp a man's role with full acknowledgement to the fact that there is this weird modern reality that says like men are super yucky and at the same time women can be men and at the same time we should compete with men. Like I know that tension is out there. But in the Catholic space where we genuine or generally don't fall into those things. It's not just get married and be a mom or you're a failure. It's not you're 28, you're too old. You're somehow a failure. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. There are so many more roles beyond that. And I think people think they either conveniently forget about these other roles or they think, well, you're not in those other roles. Therefore, all of the logic sticks you here and you're going against the grain somehow by not perfect fitting into this box that I have decided you should fit into.
Yeah. What you're saying too is really true about the like saying that with love. I'm going to smack you down now. Jesus like portrays that so well and it keeps coming up. So any of my regular listeners will be like, oh my gosh, he's mentioning it again. But in the rich young man, specifically in Mark's version of it, where it's the only place where it says Jesus looked at him, loved him, and said, you lack one thing. And it's just like, that's so great. That's how we should go with everybody.
Yeah.
And even at my table at this men's ministry we have, I lead a table. There's like 8 guys, and man, those guys they'll disagree with each other and fast. It's like a light switch. It's just like, and we're arguing, and it's like okay, and now we're good. We're talking to something else, and it's like, and we're arguing, yelling at each other again. It's like, oh my gosh, like guys, like goodness gracious. These are like supposed to be people who are all Catholic and all believe the same thing, and it's like, it's just men. It's like, but we need to be able to like. That's the cool thing about Jesus coming and just being such a perfect human being. Is men are not naturally inclined to love, but here's a harsh truth. But we should be striving for that. So it's a tough one. But women are naturally inclined to that, which is just a natural gift of theirs.
I have actually like experienced where, and I think some people just like jump before they think. I've had people come into my comments and I think just ramble off something without thinking. And when I've met them with kindness, most often they're going to at least calm down and like try to engage in dialogue. And if not, then like move on. But I actually
Yeah.
have like followers that I regularly engage with that are not Catholic and don't really believe anything that I believe at all. And like sometimes will joke now and post things because when they came at me super angry, I either said, "Whoa, it's not that serious," or like I was like, "Tell me more." And I think that they are shocked by that. And
Mhm.
I'm not great at it all the time. Sometimes I snap back or I want to snap back. And sometimes I have to take a minute and think about what I'm
Mhm.
about to respond. Uh,
Yeah.
but a lot of times I think that people aren't used to that because they're used to the other person fighting back immediately and just,
Mhm.
having that. But when they are met with kindness, I think it makes them take a step back and think about what is going on.
Mhm.
And, we end up having a great conversation. And I think that that can go a far way. And I wish more people would approach, I guess, dialogue and disagreements that way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And there's an article we just went over in our discipleship group on crucial conversations and talking about when you have these conversations that, and this is for everybody, not just men or women, but people either tend to, when they feel attacked, go towards violence or silence. And there's so many different versions of that. It's not, violence doesn't always have to be verbal abuse or physical abuse or anything. It can be actually passive aggressive. It can be sarcasm. And then silence can be like making jokes and like avoidance and or just straight up silence. And Yeah, it's so interesting to see like that. It kind of just goes hand in hand with this, is knowing that it knowing how people are going to respond, or like kind of catching on how people are going to respond. But no matter which one, silence or violence, is like if you respond with love first, the silent people are going to feel comfortable to talk, and the violent people are going to come down.
Yeah,
So
that's
interesting.
the word that I was going to say because 'cause I've had the same thing where someone comes in hot and
Mhm.
then I respond with kindness instead. It's disarming, and
Yeah.
it's astounding how many times you'll get somebody sliding into your comments like a hot little potato, and as
Mhm.
soon as you say, "Oh, okay, well,
Mhm.
maybe let's talk about that. Like, do you have a particular criticism?
Mhm.
What is that's on your mind?" All of a sudden, they're like, "Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Take the foil off and cool down a little
Yeah.
bit here." Like
Yeah. That's so funny. I could see them like, yeah, calming down right away, or being not having a response to it. It's like,
no
oh
response,
well.
that's always it, anytime,
Yeah.
every single time I have
Yeah.
responded with kindness. Okay, I'll say 99% of the time because 'cause I'm sure there's, like,
Mm.
some troll somewhere in my comment sections that I was like, "Goodbye." But 99% of the time,
Yeah.
it is silence more often than not silence, or it's somebody going, "Okay, here's my here this is what I'm
Yeah.
thinking over here, please tell me more."
Yeah.
And you're like,
It's like,
"Alright, now we can talk."
yeah. It's like, I put that in your comment section. You're not supposed to respond to
You're not a
that.
human on the other side of the screen.
Yeah. You just confronted me. What? I don't know what to do. What do I do? What do I
On
do with
my
my hands?
anonymous account
Yeah.
with no profile picture.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, it's funny. Well, before we move on to the next subject, or not next subject, but next, like role of women in ministry. What do you guys think of like when it does say, so the most controversial, I feel like, in this topic Bible verse when it says like, wives submit to your husbands? Well, like, what is your guys' take on that? Because I could explain it, but that'd probably be mansplaining. So we'll kick it to one of you guys. So if like Taylor, you want to start, what do you think that means? Like submit. I mean, again, you're not married, but what do you think that means? Like how would you explain it to someone asking?
Yeah. Um, so like I said earlier, I had made a post about this earlier in the week about how basically I just think that it's important for men to be submissive just as women are submissive. And when I started looking into it more, looking at how the church calls it a virtue and that it's
Hmm.
not about control, but it's about service and humility. And
Hmm.
how I think we get this idea, or we can get this idea of like, women submit to your husbands because like they're going to control you and tell you what to do, and like that's not what it is at
Hmm.
all. It's an act of mutual submission, and we know that the husband should submit to the church, especially if he's leading,
Hmm.
his family within the church.
Yeah.
um but really it all comes down to being humble
Hmm.
and serving one another, not just commanding submission when it's convenient for you,
Yeah.
um to make the other person serve you.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I had this cool picture of it because it was, yeah, very, very similar to that. It's like, I like what you said about like they're both submitting to each other in a way, but like it's like women submit to your husbands, and it's like kind of let them lead, like let them protect, let them serve, let them like the hunt and gather, like let them do that. But I love, and I had someone point this out one time. It's in Ephesians 5:25 when it says on the flip, husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So it's when like wives submit to your husbands, and it's kind of like Mary, obviously the mother, but like her being at the cross at the foot, and she's underneath Jesus, and then Jesus is loving the church here. Like this is how we men should love like our wives. It's like we should die on the cross for them, and we should be the one sacrificing and stepping up. It's like it's not like we're King David, like we're like over like just this like towering over like an empire or something. Like we're not like royalty, so it's not like submit to us, you're our servants now. But it's like, no, we should be like Jesus, and we should die on the cross and be willing to like sacrifice everything for our family. And then it's like wives, like follow that, like follow their sacrifice. That's how I've always seen it, at least. What about you, Desiree? What do you want to tag on?
Yeah, my take is that the buck has to stop somewhere. Okay, so any good, well matched spouse or union, I should say, both spouses are going to have the ability to communicate and talk through certain things and to acknowledge, hey, this is not my forte. This is not my strength. I'm going to defer to you, whatever it is, right? But at some point, we've all experienced it with our parents, with our cousins, with whoever we're having some kind of conversation or debate or whatever with. But it's never more tense and impactful than when it's with your spouse, because you have to live with this person all the time.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with what they say. So the submit to your husbands, I take as twofold. One, the buck has to stop somewhere. So if we really cannot come to a conclusion and no amount of, or an agreeable conclusion, and no amount of me saying, well, this is my side and these are the pros and the cons, and like, can't you just see it my way? If it's not going to convince my husband, it's not going to convince my husband. And at the end of the day, me being a shrew of a wife is not going to make him come my way. It's just going to beat him down. So I have to submit to my husband in those moments. And that's not happened like hardly ever at all in my marriage. I've been married 13 years. It hasn't even happened 13 times. You know, like it just never ever happens ever.
Yeah.
And it's not common because you have good communication and you have a good spouse. And I think secularly speaking, most of the people who push back on that are people who push back on that because they don't know how to pick a good spouse. And all that they know is what they saw maybe modeled by their parents or what they saw from all of their exes or the people that they're with right now, where it's like they loser, let them go, whatever it is. But when you're actually with somebody who's got their proper orientations and their proper hierarchies of importance of certain things, it becomes a lot easier. And it sort of becomes a not self-fulfilling prophecy. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I really don't have to do it that often because we're able to communicate and go through it. On the flip side of things, I do it in very small ways really often, you know, like really, really often. But it's things that are like, maybe we're driving to mass and I would have taken this road instead of that road. I'm not going to be like, why didn't you take this road? I'm just going to go, whatever. He's the one driving us to mass today. Let it go. You know, stuff like that. So that's my thought on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about this as you guys were both saying this. Those are both such great answers. And I was thinking about someone who could possibly be like having a problem with that would be someone who maybe their husband is not leading like Jesus lead and is loving the church, or loving his wife like he loves the church, because, or maybe he is loving his wife like he loves the church because maybe he doesn't really love the church. That puts you in kind of a different category. And in that point, I think that's when a woman would need to step up for her kids or something, and encourage her husband to get involved and invite her husband to things, try to get her husbands plugged in with other things. But yeah, I want to make sure I threw that out there just in case someone's like, man, if I had to submit to my husband, my kids would be doomed because he doesn't do anything and he's not very faithful. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of a completely different situation. In the overall scheme, though, if the husband's doing what he's doing, picking up the cross, like sacrificing for his family, doing everything he can to provide for his family, then the wife submitting should actually come naturally. Honestly, I think most like women who have a good husband would not have an issue with someone saying like you should submit to your husband. I think it's the ones that either are super super feminist or like the ones that are married but their husband's not super involved. It's like, man, if I had to submit to him, like that would be terrible. Or, I'm not married, but if I got married and you're saying I now have to submit to them, I'm gonna have a problem with that. I feel like anyone that's in a good relationship where the husband's doing what he should do, the wife wouldn't have a problem with this at all.
Yeah, 100%. And if there happens to be any woman whose husband is not necessarily willing to die for you watching this, I say this, I express this sentiment all the time. I usually say it like this. I usually say the church is both Francis of Assisi and Thomas Aquinas. Okay, it's both very like liberal, very smelling the people, very loving the animals and the earth. It's also very lofty and very mental and very
Mm-hmm.
articulate and all of these things. It's both. It's both. Okay, it's
Yeah.
both things. And as women, we should both be willing to be Therese of Lisieux, the little flower. Don't even look at me. Everything for the glory of God. And we should also be willing to be Joan of Arc.
Mm-hmm.
I will fight to the death for my country. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay to be both. You should have both within you. All right.
Yeah.
It's like the same wisdom of like, what is it? I can't remember the phrase. It's like walk tall and carry a big stick or whatever. Like, yeah, great. We get it. We
Yeah.
love it. It is
Right.
okay to say, you know what? This actually, it ties into this too. The fourth commandment, honor thy mother and father. You honor your mother and your father insofar as they are honorable. If your
Yeah.
parents are not being honorable, you don't have to honor them. In fact, you ought
Mhm.
not to honor them because it's really going to bother them. And then they're going to be like, why don't you honor me? And I'm going to be like, well, you're not honorable right now. And we need to have this really difficult talk where this paradigm is inverted and I'm being the parent and you're being the child and we need to
Yeah.
revert. So please fix yourself. It's
Yeah.
exactly that same sentiment within the marriage. If you will not step up and take care of me and our children, I will step up and take care of you and our children until you're well enough to do it. And that's not even necessarily a moral failure
Mhm.
on the part of your spouse. Your spouse might be going through something and they might be falling apart. And it's part of that tenderness in women to say, okay. I'm going to step up. Let's help
Mhm.
put these pieces back together and let's get
Yeah.
back to where we need to be.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think Taylor, for you, I think you may be a perfect person to give advice on this because, like, not being married, this would obviously, I would assume, be something that, like, if you were, say, interested, like, you meet some guy and you're interested in him and like dating or something. Is this something that you've kind of thought of in your head of like, I would want to make sure that the man I'm going to marry is someone that is like this, obviously faithful, but like worth not like I don't know if that's the way to say it, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Worth submitting to.
Yeah, maybe not on the first date, but like kind of like
Well,
as
yeah.
you're kind of listen, we run out of time. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, when you do kind of get down the line, I always like I personally I have been financially independent, since I was 19. Like I've always
Mhm.
made it work. I have put myself through school when I dropped out of school, like all the things. And so like I know that I can do it. I know that
Mhm.
I live by myself. I do all the things and
Mhm.
I know that I can do it, but also like I am 100% willing to like let somebody else do it.
Mhm.
But when I am dating or seeing somebody, I always like I do think I'm like, is this person I'm more than willing to submit, but are they willing to be someone that I would submit to?
Mhm.
Um and I also think that like being so I don't want to say devout, but like the faith is so important to me that
Mhm.
I don't see myself like just being with an uncatechized Catholic or,
Mhm.
someone who doesn't like actively live the faith the best that they can
Yeah.
intentionally
Mhm.
and following the church just because that's really important to me. And
Yeah.
so to not give it up, but like to submit to that
Mhm.
person has to be worthy to submit to.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's funny about that. I was just talking to someone recently. I was like, how'd you and your husband meet? And he said, well, I went to adoration one time and I just saw this cute girl sitting in the front. And then I went outside and I looked at the notebook and saw that she does adoration at that time every week. And so I started going at that time every week. And I finally just stayed in there long enough that I was comfortable with, but she just wasn't leaving. And then finally she got up and I got up and we're leaving at the same time. And then we ran into each other and I asked her out. And then she said she was nervous because she thought I was waiting for her to get up. And she was nervous to be asked out, but she also kind of was thinking similar things. And now they're married and have 3 kids. I'm
That's
Oh,
great.
like, that's so cool. So men go to adoration chapels and hunts for your women. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's great. That's great advice. Because if it was on the first date, whereas like this guy's not, I don't think so, whatever. You shouldn't date to convert, which this priest in our diocese always jokes about. It's so funny. Like anytime someone's dating someone and it's like, oh, I'm not Catholic. It's like, oh, nice, date to convert, and like high fiving the Catholic person that they're dating. And it's just like, yeah, don't do that. But when me and my wife met, she literally said, well, I go to mass on Sundays. If you want to go to church together, you should come with me. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go to mass, but I will never become Catholic. So I told her that before we were officially dating. And I was like, she could have written me off real fast. I got very, very lucky. And then 6 years later, I'm a focused missionary. So I'm like both sides of it. It's like, don't write somebody off. Like maybe that should be like a yellow flag or something to like look out for. Like still continue to, if you're interested, date them, but make sure things are at least heading in the right direction. Because
I think that's what somebody told me. It was like, don't date, like, don't just look for a finished product. And I'm like, I'm not looking for a finished product, but I do need to see like some effort. And like,
potential.
Yes, you can see
potential.
Yeah, there has to be something there. I'm not saying that they have to check all the boxes immediately, but I do have to see that they've put effort in to like better themselves.
Yeah. And that I think probably was the one thing that like kept me around for my wife at first, was I was always willing to go. So like I would go to the young adult events, or I'd go to that adoration event or whatever it was. And even though I was like, she says this adoration event, and I was like, how long would we be in there? Well, after she explained it, she goes, I don't know, like 45 minutes to an hour. It's like, an hour? Like, what are we supposed to do for an hour? Like, how do people pray for an hour? What in the world? And I do holy hours every day. So it's so funny how far like God's humor is pretty funny. But okay, moving on to the next, because I feel like we probably could have done the whole thing on just the domestic church. But speaking of domestic church, I did do an episode with Dr. Edward Stree from Focus on the domestic church, and I asked him if he had any advice for me for a young dad raising kids and how to keep them Catholic as I raise them, and he said, "Nope." That's how it finished. That was the end of the episode. I was like, "All right, well, thanks, Dr. Stree. We'll see you next time." I didn't work for him at the time, but it was pretty funny. Okay, so now we're getting into the role of women in ministry. And there was kind of a 3-section ministry and church, but I feel like ministry is kind of this would be like a Venn diagram. It'd be like you got the family and you got the church, and then ministry, it encompasses both. So we'll just kind of include these with both. But obviously the other sensitive topic for some is, especially non-Catholics, is like so adamant. They're so upset that women can't be priests. And we've had the, what was it? Was it Pope? Yeah, I think it was Pope Francis when they were like interviewing. It's like, do you think that we're living in a time that we will eventually see a Catholic priest or deacon? He goes, no. And
I love that so much.
I think it was 60 Minutes. So that was the 60 Minutes.
It's the best clip ever. She was not expecting that answer at all.
No.
She thought like she was about to have the interview that was going to change her career. And he's like, no. And he's like, okay, that did not go the way I thought. But this awesome. In. Yeah, this person wrote this is women are not ordained to the priesthood, but their ministerial role is vital in teaching, catechesis, evangelism, music, service, leadership, and witness. Their strength lies in spiritual motherhood and in modeling Mary's loving discipleship. And I think and just in general, like obviously with the domestic church too, we didn't even talk about like just this miraculous like child making process. Obviously the man's involved with part of it, but just what the women's body can do to create life. But having like Jesus picked his 12 disciples, and he's like, these will be like, we got the first pope, we got Peter, we got the disciples that will go off and kind of be the bishops in the areas. But he also picked Mary, and Mary had such a crazy role. It's just an awesome way. I guess I always say crazy in a good way. It's just an awesome role. But what are you guys' thoughts on women in ministry or the church?
Taylor, do you want to go first?
You go first.
Okay. So I love pointing out that there's a difference between apostles and disciples.
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus had 12 apostles that were all men, and the one who betrayed him was replaced by a man. Yeah. And the first martyr among them was a man. Okay. There's lots of like signs that point toward male leadership, male sacrifice, male so on and so on and so on. Right. But there's also many signs that point toward the fidelity and the importance of women in the church. You know, we see, I think Phoebe's the deaconess. We see many women in the Bible who do what they have to do in order to get the job done, if you will.
Yeah.
It's like maybe my husband should have something, or maybe so and so shouldn't have something, but I'm going to go for it and I'm going to do what I can. It was the women who brought Jesus the towel to wipe his face, was
Hmm.
predominantly women, followers of Jesus, disciples of Jesus, who
Hmm.
followed him and stayed faithful to him at the foot of the cross. Only one apostle stayed faithful
Yeah.
to him at the foot of the cross. You know what I mean? Like, there's something about women that is uniquely special, that is, sorry guys, but in a way a lot more faithful
Hmm.
to Jesus, to the
Yeah.
church than men are.
Yep.
And I honestly, I think that's another part of the puzzle as far as like why men and women belong together in marriage,
Hmm.
is sometimes men can be maybe a little hot in the head or maybe something, and it takes that feminine to bring them back down to base and to remind them,
Yeah.
okay, well, this is still true, and these are still the things, like, let's recontextualize. It's whatever
Hmm.
here, like things that men just don't do. They just don't do. I'm sorry, no matter how
Yeah.
much therapy speak you throw at them, it's not going to be their go-to. It's not going to be their whatever. They're going to feel like
Hmm.
they're being tortured if they try. Like, it
Hmm.
just is. It just is.
Yeah.
And I think that the saints, the women of the Bible, and just what you see happening today. I'm not going to speak to like nun sisters because I'm not
Hmm.
one of them, and I'm not going to speak to their vocational experience, right?
Yeah.
But there's so much more to do outside of their vocational experience, and I think
Hmm.
there's also an element of maybe we have to reflect on the fact that all of these things can be true in good times and in bad, but we are in a time right now where there's a vocation crisis. We ought to be constantly
Hmm.
praying for
Yeah.
vocations. It's just a fact that priests are spread really thin and there's not
Hmm.
as many thriving, if you will, cloisters and things like that. But there are a great number of laity who are capable of standing up and running certain ministries, of taking up certain jobs, of
Hmm.
teaching, of doing all kinds of things that it's like,
Yeah.
in an ideal world, would we just be overflowing with
Hmm.
priests and monks and whoever who could fulfill every single teaching position? Perhaps,
Hmm.
sure. I'd still say you need a woman's voice somewhere in there, at least
Yeah.
to balance it and to make sure that
Hmm.
it's not going too awry and losing half of the people that God made. But yeah, there's just I think there needs to be an acknowledgement of like, this is the world we're in. These are the things that we're facing, and whether people want to acknowledge it or not, teaching the faith is actually really hard. Like, you can't just present your opinion as facts. You may not
Yeah.
even realize that your opinion is your opinion. This is like the third time today that I've said it because I've had so many conversations where I look at teaching the faith almost like braiding hair, right? Like, you have these beautiful trinity of pieces, and you're just interweaving them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth,
Hmm.
back and forth until you come to the end and you're like, this is the teaching. This is why the church teaches this. This is why this is true. Because I thought about this. Well, then what about that? But then what about this? And we also have to consider that. And so said this, and so said that. And then, who's my teacher? Who's my spiritual director? What did they say? And da da da. Like, you just keep going until inevitably you go, oh, yeah, the catechism was right. Oh, yeah. Actually, when this
Yeah.
person back then said that, we can see why that's one of those teachings that we sort of ignore now. And we don't really emphasize that teaching because it actually wasn't very good. But these
Hmm.
things that they said, those were great. And that's why we hold to them and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And I think it is a feminine trait to acknowledge that stuff, and I think it's a masculine trait to. I mean, just look at the teachers, the people who put themselves in teaching positions. I should say, people who just put themselves in teaching positions online. It's not usually women who try and like beat you over the head with the faith.
Yeah.
They like submit to Rome or whatever.
Hmm.
Like, it's not just women who mog the camera and then say something inflammatory. Like,
Hmm.
there are different approaches, and there's a reason for that, and there's a need for both the people who are going to be more kind and more effeminate toward
Yeah.
those teachings for both men and women, and for people who are like, no, actually you need to be bashed over the head right now. And you're
Hmm.
gonna need a guy to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I loved well, first of all, I love the braiding thing because that also speaks to men too. Because when I try to braid my daughter's hair, it's just kind of like, I can't do it, just stupid hair. So, no, I loved all the examples you used of all these examples from the Bible, these women. And then I had one that I wrote down was Mary Magdalene. You have the apostles, yeah, all these men that were chosen for certain things. You have the 12 apostles, but then Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, I have seen the Lord. And so then it even says that she's known as the apostle of the apostles. And yeah, I think there's all sorts of little little just our parish has this thing. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it's something I don't know, but they call them God wink moments of like just God like God winking at you. And I feel like these are like just all these God wink moments of like showing it's like, hey, like women are important. Like, yeah, I picked all these, the apostles are all men, were replaced with another man. The first pope's a man, like all this stuff, like women won't be priests. But it's like, but he gives us Mary and Mary Magdalene and yeah, Anna and all the ones that St. Timothy's family, all this stuff. He gives us so many great examples. It's just kind of like a CEO and a CFO and a COO. It's like you need all the roles, but if you don't have one of them, it gets real tough real fast. But like someone's got to be the CEO though. And it's just
Yeah.
like, could he have done it the opposite way? Like absolutely he could have. But it's like the fact is he did it he did it the one way. And so like within the church, like he just appointed men to be priests. So yeah, very
Yeah,
interesting.
I think this is not like a new sentiment or whatever, but I think a lot of people maybe misplace or just don't meditate enough on the fact that the greatest person who ever lived who wasn't also God was a woman.
Mm,
That tells you something.
mm,
There's for as amazing and necessary and unique and special as men are in the church, and I believe that with my whole heart, and I don't think
mhm,
women can do what men can do in the church. Also acknowledge that the greatest non-God person to ever live was a woman. And it's
Yeah.
not just because, like, well, women carry babies. It's like, well, there's a reason why women carry babies. You know what I
mhm,
mean? There's a reason why this is the way it is and the reason why it was the way it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something beautiful
Yeah.
to meditate on if you're trying to decipher where there's I mean, you use the Venn diagram, there's an
mhm,
overlap between men and women for sure, but there's also
Mhm.
distinct differences for sure.
mhm,
And it doesn't make one or the other better, it just makes them different.
Yeah. Yeah. There's St. John Paul II put out it's the dignity of a woman. I will not try the Latin. Maybe I'll put the Latin on the screen. I'll just embarrass myself. But it says the moral and spiritual strength of a woman is joined to her awareness that God entrusts the human being to her in a special way. And there was another one up here somewhere, but I saw that one too. But yeah, there's a reason why like men need women because they are such a strong. They've got a missionary heart. That's kind of what we see with Mary Magdalene is that just shows her missionary heart, and you see the faith of Mary, the mother of God. And I think that they were put there for a reason because the man is chosen to lead, but he needs someone there to empower him to be able to, when he is going to struggle with his faith, he needs someone there that's strong, like is consistent and strong. And yeah, I think
And
there's some
cheer him
things
on.
that go a little up and
Yes,
down, but yeah, when it comes to faith though, I think that it's really important for women to be the stronghold, like be that good foundation for the man. Yeah.
absolutely.
What about you, Taylor? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think my parish, and I know a lot of parishes, are ran by women, not as a
mhm,
priest, but like we have our liturgy, whatever her title is, the one who like
Faith
coordinates it all.
person.
Yes, like
mhm,
coordinates all the liturgies and schedules everything. She's been doing that for
mm,
25, 30 years, seeing all these priests come and go. And it's kind of funny because if I was talking to my priest one day and he was joking that he was afraid of her because like she means business and like tells him what to do. And I feel like people think that the priesthood is about like a title and about having control and authority when it's not that. Like it is they give up their lives in service of the church. And yes, they do something that's so incredibly important that we cannot do, but also it's not they are not given a title to take it and tell you what to do. They
mhm,
are there to serve us as the people.
Yeah.
And also just thinking about, like I was saying earlier before the call, I was reading Eliza Writes Things Substack essay this week, and she was talking about how men are not ordained as priests because women are not capable or because women are not to be listened to or
mhm,
because they're too emotional. That's not why. We know obviously that the priest acts in persona Christi and then the marriage supper with the church and everything. And so that makes sense. But if we weren't supposed to listen to women, we would not have female saints that are doctors of the church,
mhm,
you know,
Yeah.
and who are brilliant people and
Mm.
give brilliant perspectives that we might not have otherwise. And
Yeah.
so to say that women's voices aren't important is just not a fact. or you're discrediting all of the amazing saints that we have.
Yeah, for
And the
sure.
Blessed Mother, of course.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I think, like, when somebody is in my comments and saying whatever, I'm like, would you talk to Jesus's mom like that? Like, would you
Mhm.
say that to her just
Yeah.
because she's a woman? No, of course
Yeah.
not.
Unfortunately, some people are like, yeah, I would. And just like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but yeah,
there's a problem there.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, female saints, doctors of the church. I'm reading Interior Castle right now, and it's just like,
Oh,
So
so
good.
it's
good.
so, yeah,
So
so
good.
such a great, it's almost one you gotta like I've done where I've read a chapter and I'm just like, I'll have to go back and read that again because I
Yeah.
forgot like half of that. Or like
It's
I'll read a
deep.
paragraph, I'm like, what? And like go back up. And I love that. And like in the intro, it even tells like Teresa of Avila says, like, my mind wanders, like this is God is communicating this to me and I'm trying to put it on paper for you guys. And like I love how often she's just like, I hope that makes sense. And I pray that you get something out of this because I am doing my best. And but anyway, yeah, the doctors of the church that have come, like some of the best um like literature you can read are from women. That Interior Castle or Story of a Soul, the Saint Therese of Lisieux, some of the best are women saints, which is great.
And they aren't like even Saint Therese of Lisieux like mentions that she's not like the smartest scholar, and it's not
Mhm.
about knowing all the things or having all the degrees. Like, your voice can be powerful and valuable without letters after your name or certain accreditation.
Yeah.
Just faithful people who love the Lord and want to share that and love the people around them is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always think too that there's got to be an element of like just pride in all of this too. I feel like there is like if there was a woman that was just so adamant that there needs to be Catholic priests and truly, truly believe that, or maybe it's her herself, like that woman wants to be a Catholic priest and wants to be up there. Like there's got to be a sense of like pride with that, of like wanting to. I mean, that's what it was for me for a long time when I was Protestant. I wanted to be a pastor. I wanted to be that one on the stage and have the microphone and talking to people and stuff. But it wasn't because I wanted to do that for God. Like I wanted to do it for myself. And I always think of that there must be some pride that's involved with that, of like wanting to be up there themselves. And like if they were a man, they would have probably entered the priesthood, or at least tried to enter the priesthood, maybe have been flagged for pride or something. But I don't know if that's something you guys have ever thought about, if that's just something that women like, there's pride just coming out. I feel like the enemy just uses those vices, and he sees what vice you struggle with and just uses that to like just try to, how can I attack you with that?
No, I agree. I won't say exactly where we were in our lives. Not that I think anyone would be able to track this down, but just to be safe. My husband and I were at a point in our lives where we encountered somebody who was, I think he was a Lutheran,
Mhm.
question mark. I'm not sure. Pastor. But we encountered him because of where we were at in our lives. And I knew my husband had spoken to him a little bit more than I had. And I knew that he used to be Catholic. And so I asked him, I was like, I asked my husband, I said, well, do you know what drew him towards being Lutheran if he was raised Catholic? And he goes, well, yeah, he just thought he was called to be
Mhm.
both like a pastor and a husband. And
Mhm.
perhaps this is rude of me, but I went, he wasn't. And my
Yeah.
husband,
He was
my husband and
called,
I
just
talked
not
about
by,
it.
it wasn't by God.
Yeah. And yeah, we talked about that. And it's like, I want to be sensitive to
Mhm.
the plight of men because I've talked to priests or heard them just talk to like groups about this, where there's one priest in particular who was talking about how when he was going through the process of ordination, he felt attacked by Satan because he had some health issues. And Satan was like, if you're not married, who's going to take care of you when you're old? Someday you're
Mhm.
going to be old, you're going to be really sick. Somebody's going to have to take care of you. Who's going to do it? You're not going to be married. Who's going to do it? And he was like really doubting
Mhm.
because he was like, "Look, who is gonna take care of me? Like, I could totally go find a wife and be married. Like, I'm a good looking stud, totally. Like, I could."
Mhm.
He's like Father Mike Schmitz. He's very, very, very could be very successful with the ladies if he really wanted to. But he was
Yeah.
following the call of God, and that's the plan for him, right? So
Mhm.
he's like, I totally could, but I also totally feel his call, and I am worried because who is gonna take care of me? Like, I know the church says she's gonna take care of me, but like,
Mhm.
will she take care of me?
Mhm.
And so there's this very real tension and this very real sacrifice that
Mhm.
men have to go through. And I think it's
Yeah.
something that like women and priests can sort of what's the word? Commiserate on that sentiment. Because as a mother, I often feel like my time is not my own. Like to be able to have the ability to hear and do this podcast with you guys, it's because my husband has all 6 children, including the 8-month-old by himself right now, making it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And most of the time that's me. Most of the time it is
Okay.
myself going, I would love to go and work on whatever, but I have to lay my baby down for a nap. I have to ensure everybody's staying with their chores, doing their schoolwork, doing whatever.
Yeah.
My time is not my own.
Mhm.
Priests do that honestly probably more than I do because it's 24/7.
Yeah.
Nobody calls me in the middle of the night and is like, somebody's dying. I need you to
Yeah.
come administer a
Mm.
sacrament for me or whatever. Maybe, I get the nighttime calls, but they're in my home. I don't have to leave my home. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, I think there's an element of like understanding and connection there where you see it's 2 sides of the same coin
Yeah.
almost. And I have a lot of, I think, understanding of it and empathy of it. And I deeply appreciate it. And I also understand like, I might not be doing it in the same way that they're doing it, but I am called to make the same sacrifices. And just
Yeah.
because it's not the exact same sacrifice that they're making, like it doesn't make it any better or worse. It doesn't make it any this, that, or the other. It does come down to going, you know what? These are my faculties. This is what I'm called to. This is what I'm capable of doing and being content with
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Or going, actually, no, that's not enough for me and I want more and I'm willing to denomination hop in order to find it or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and just like when you see all the saints, like some saints were called to like, hey, Maximilian Kolbe, sorry, you're going to be in a concentration camp and you're going to die there. Where others are like Saint Therese, you're going to deal with some sickness, but you're just going to be in a convent. So many people are called to different things, and they're asked to do so many different things. Saint Philip Neri is one of my favorite saints, and he was a layperson for a long time, just willing to do whatever. And then he was called to be a priest 13 years later, and yeah, answer the call, became a priest and everything. Yeah, it's where everybody's life's gonna look so different. And yeah, those great. Great. I kind of honestly lost track of what I was saying, but I talked about Teresa of Avila and then I started losing track of my thoughts too. So I'll kick it to you, Taylor. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think that kind of what you were talking about earlier, Desiree, too, of like we need women to fill these other roles because we are in a vocation crisis and the priest and monks or nuns and whoever can't do everything right now. And I think about how this was another thing that Eliza was saying in her essay of how priests are not hired to, give a sermon and then lead a fundraiser, as opposed to
Mhm.
maybe a Protestant pastor who is
Yeah.
appointed to lead the congregation on a Sunday morning and be in charge of things like that. That's not what our priests are. They're I mean, not that they're not there for that, but like that's not their primary thing. Their primary thing is to give us the sacraments, and that's a unique thing that they can do that we can't, that lay people cannot do. And
Yeah.
so we need them in that role, and they can't be everywhere else at one time. They can't be teaching the 5 individual CCD and youth group classes that are all meeting at the exact same time. So we need other people to fill that role, and they need to be able to do what they are called to do and what they are ordained to do by God for us, for the church.
Yeah, I agree. I was just thinking of, for some reason, like I was thinking about the fine tuning argument for God's existence and how everything is just, even to the tiniest little details in a plant, are like put in place for a specific reason. So some of the huge elements in the galaxy and everything's put into a specific place. And there's even certain things, and I'm not a scientist, so I always forget the science to it. But like, if things were off by even just slightly, like the entire universe would collapse on itself. I feel like that's the same with the church. I agree with what you were saying earlier, Taylor. It's like the churches normally are ran by women in the background. The priest may be the head, but man, it's the team of women. I'm a parish missionary, so I'm in a parish, and the staff is like 5 guys and like 12 women, and the women are in roles where it's like the head of finance and the one that is in charge of Father Elkin and Father Dissel's schedules. And so like she literally, like, they don't know where they're going, and like they've got to talk to Sarah, who's telling them and organizing them where
So
to go
true.
and stuff. And they're the ones in charge of our communication director. And just, yeah, it's so important. There's just certain gifts and everything that was given
Yeah.
to women that women are naturally inclined to. Again, like kind of like you were saying earlier, Desiree, it's like just because women are inclined to it doesn't necessarily mean men won't have a strength, or vice versa. But there are things that women are just more inclined to and men are more inclined to. And if we will just cooperate with God's purpose for our certain gender, things will just run really smoothly. And And I feel like we see that in like the Catholics have done that for thousands of years and it's worked well. And anytime there is some kind of chasm or some kind of break off or something, they typically just leave some more break off and a more break off and a more break off. Because if it's a woman that wants to be a pastor, so she stops being Catholic and goes and opens her own church, it's not too long until someone sees that and then they realize, well, I love your church, but I wish you did this. Maybe I'm going to break off and make my own church, and I'm going to do everything you do, but except I'm going to change this belief. And we've seen that happen for generations now, and it's just like led to so much stuff that, like, I think where the Protestant church is at right now, that if Martin Luther came back alive, like, he would become Catholic so fast. Like, he'd be like running back because he's just like, what the heck happened? And it's like, yeah, you started this, buddy. So
That goes back to submission though, and like
yeah,
following the church and what she says. And
yeah,
because once you start thinking that it's about control, that's when it gets dangerous, of saying, well, I don't have to follow that, I can do whatever I want. And
yeah,
then leaving the covering of the magisterium. It's just not something that you want to do.
yeah, absolutely. And that there should be comfort in that too, of like, I'm going to submit to the church and whatever they teach, and understand they have our best interest and they have the truth. And there should be some comfort in me not having to go decipher, are there more than two genders? Like, I don't
I
think
love that.
there
I
are.
love
Yeah.
not having to think. And I when I was a Protestant, I used to have to go to like churches'
I love
websites
not having
and
to,
like
I just got on
I
the
love not yeah, no, but like I used to have to go and like look at the what we believe section and look at the leadership and look at all the things. And now I can just be like, someone has one time asked me like, "What's your topic on this?" And I was like, "Well, the church says this, so I say this." And they're like, "No, I want your opinion." And I'm like, the best thing apart about this whole thing is that I don't have to make my own. I can just point
Mhm.
to whatever the church, who has way more years than I do in this, to tell me.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you going to tag onto that, Desiree?
I think just it was my thought process earlier of like, the buck has to stop somewhere. So if
Yeah.
I'm do it to my husband, fine. My husband submits to our priest, who then submits to his bishop and the
Yeah.
archbishops. Oh, like it stops somewhere. It always stops
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And I greatly appreciate, in keeping with what Taylor just said, like that ability of going, honestly, I can't. Like no one can. No one can know intimately, to the degree that they ought to,
Mhm.
all of the things about everything. Like, at
Yeah.
a certain point, I have to go, "This is not my forte. I'm not
Mhm.
going to ever be an exorcist myself, so maybe I
Mhm.
just find somebody who is one, and I listen to them for a while, and I decide, 'You know what? I like you. I trust you. I think you're ticking all the
Mhm.
boxes, and there are no red flags. So I'm gonna defer to what you think and to what you say.'" And that's a very good, natural, comforting thing for the
Yeah.
average Catholic. And I mean, that said, there's a balance there, right? Of like, okay, well,
Mhm.
what is your opinion? Well, my opinion is the church's opinion, right? But also, I think it requires a sense of humility to go, maybe I'm listening to Father so and so or Sister whoever or whatever, but I'm not doing this research. I'm just going to abide by this for myself. And I'm
Mhm.
also not going to try and like teach on it or argue with somebody about it,
Yeah.
because I'm just going to go, you know what? I trust what it is. And because I don't really know intimately for myself, I'm going to live my life like this.
Mhm.
And for the people who I am in charge of, I'm going to worry about this. But
Mhm.
I don't want to like contribute to the confusion
Mhm.
of whatever in the interwebs or in the conversation or whatever you do. So there's
Yeah.
like a certain humility that says like, maybe I don't research all the things, but I trust what the church says, or I trust what Father so and so says, or I trust what
Mhm.
this apologist says, and I go with it. But I'm also able to acknowledge like I don't personally know. I just know what they say. And so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go, but I trust this person and I think they're great. So I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah.
It's an excellent practice, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I could literally see that person that's in your guys' comment section, like hearing something like this and just being like, oh, so you would submit to your priest who does the bishop, who does the pope. So now you're like, but what about the pope or whatever? And obviously he submits to God. But then this turns into like, okay, now we're into the pope is infallible. And that's a whole nother topic for that one's one of my favorites. But yeah, no, I agree. And at the end of the day, it's like these people that are on the bottom of the totem pole, it's kind of like the whole like white supremacy and Black Lives Matter people and stuff like that. It's like them talking about like white people have way more opportunities and stuff than black people do, and it's like really like as far as wealth goes, like we're like the bottom of the totem pole. It's like the Asians and Indians and stuff and everybody are up here like the richest in the world, and we're like down here like, no, I'm the poorest. And I feel like that's kind of what this turns into. It's like at the end of the day, it's like you should find comfort in this teaching of like, wives submit to your husbands and husbands die on the cross for your wives. And
Yeah.
there shouldn't be any anything of that. And then when it comes to women being teachers, so marriage aside and everything, like women being teachers is like, yes, they can be teachers of the faith, and they should be, especially to their family, but they can be teachers of the faith in their community too. So if your objection is, well, Catholics don't think that women can do this, it's like, that's not true. Like, when they are completely okay with women being teachers of the faith. It's just in specific roles. So that's what I always get. But I feel like this could turn into a Pints of Aquinas episode real fast in the 3 hour episode. But we go and wrap it up here. But I want to ask one last question, which would be, if there is like a woman that was out there that was listening to this and starting to feel maybe a little better, what like I guess what advice would you give to someone who is trying to come into like more confidence in like her role as a woman? Like they're kind of on the fence, or they're kind of like a little timid, but I don't know if that question even makes sense. But I was just trying to think of like ending on some like empowering notes to other women out there.
Taylor, do you
I
want to go
can,
first?
yeah. So actually, this is just like embracing my femininity, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Coming into the church, first of all, I'm like 6'2", 6'1".
Yeah.
Like, I'm really tall. And like, that was something that I really struggled with because women aren't that tall. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll never be this like small person. Like, I am loud, I am tall, I am there. Like, you know that I'm there. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, like, I never like wore dresses or skirts or anything like that. And so coming into the church and like really like, I feel like I have found myself as a woman in a way because I have embraced just like what it means, and not just superficially of like wearing skirts and dresses to mass every day, or wearing a veil in mass, which is
Mm-hmm.
also really beautiful, but also just reminding myself of like my place in the church and what I can do and what I can bring and offer that maybe other people can't, and how I can also celebrate and support the people that do things that I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And not trying to fit the mold and not trying to, do other things, but just finding like my place and being okay with my place and embracing that it's still a work in progress, but I feel like the church gives us such like beautiful guidance with that,
Mm-hmm.
that it has allowed me to really embrace that role for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. What about you, Desiree?
I would say it's simultaneously not as complicated as you think, and
Mm-hmm.
also something that you really need to spend a lot of time kind of meditating and dissecting on, because going
Mm-hmm.
back to what I said earlier, the church is St. Therese of Lisieux and Joan of Arc, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever kind of woman you are,
Mm-hmm.
who you are, not who you're trying to be,
Yeah.
who you are is who God made. So maybe you resemble Joan a little bit more, maybe you resemble Therese a little bit more, that's fine, and that's great. And maybe you are just squarely in the middle, that's fantastic. I think women can tend to be inclined to worry about
Mm-hmm.
the details, but God will fill in the details. We don't actually we can use our detail-oriented skills to do really good things, but we don't actually, for ourselves, need to worry that deeply. Don't
Yeah.
worry. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be fine. If you just tell the Lord your worries, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
lay them down at the cross, and if you pick them back up, put them back down, and if you pick it up again, put it back down again. If you pick it up again, put it down again. Okay, put them all
Mm-hmm.
down and try your
Yeah.
best to leave them where they are. But just tell God what you're thinking and how you're feeling, because if you're unsure of the way or your path or your vocation or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
being true to who God made you to be, which means living within those natural, healthy confines that set you free to discover who you really are and what God's calling is for you,
Mm-hmm.
you'll find it. I mean, where I'm 32 right now, and like 9 years ago, I was trying to become catechized, doing my best,
Mm-hmm.
but still a fairly uncatechized Catholic, and realizing I'm going to need a degree. I'm going to need to go to school if I want to catch up, if I want to figure things out, if I want an actual real grasp on this, because I'm so ungrounded that I need something to tether me there, and deciding to lean into that and to just trust God and listen to him when he spoke to me, when he led me in these paths. There was a part of me that felt like at 23 that I was a failure, but I also I've never said this before, but back then I was listening to Catching Foxes and Pints of
Mhm.
Aquinas, and I was thinking about the fact that they're both millennials like I am, but they were a little bit older than I am. They were in their
Mhm.
30s. And I was like, it's so cool that they're doing these podcasts that are really helpful. They're definitely helpful for me. And I
Mhm.
know that other people are listening to them and they're really popular and they're doing really, really well. And I was like, maybe God will find something to do with
Mhm.
me when I'm in my 30s. I feel kind of like a failure for not having it together in that sense in my 20s, where I'm acknowledging, like, yeah, I do need to go to school and I do need to figure this out. And like, I'm already married. I'm already a 2-time mother at this point.
Mhm.
But like, I know that I have some growth to do, and I know I have some figuring out to do, and maybe it's something about the 30s. I'm too
Mhm.
young, I'm too stupid, I'm too naive, I don't know enough. Maybe it'll come then. And that is
Mhm.
literally exactly what happened for me.
Mhm.
So, I think there's just the note that I wanna leave off on is, like, don't worry, don't fret
Mhm.
about the time, don't fret about your age.
Yeah.
If you are a God willing, a person who's going to live for a very long time, you have a very long time ahead
Mhm.
of you to fully step into who God made you to be and into the vocations that God has set out for you and the plan he has for you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite entrepreneurs, Gary Vaynerchuk, very vulgar person if you ever go watch his videos, but he says some stuff that's like just he's from Jersey. Oh, he's from some like Middle East country, I believe, and he lives in Jersey now. He's very like to the point, straightforward. And anytime someone asks for advice, he's like, "How old are you?" And they're like 45. And it's like, all right, just remember that you're effing young. Like you're young. Like you
I
still
know
got
it
X.
is. Ugh,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
you got X amount of years left until you die. Like you have so much time. Like there's so much time left for you.
Mhm.
And then like for the people that are like, I'm 22, and he's like,
You're a baby.
go try something and
Yeah.
fail. Go try and fail and mess up. This is the time to do it. And I just like some of that stuff is like such great advice and um stuff I've taken with me to give to people. It's just like, hey, just like go for it. But like I mainly the remember you're young, like you're still young. And so uh, yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys for being on again. It was great. I thought of this topic and then thought of both of you guys, and I was like, I've never had two guests on at the same time. So hopefully the viewers like it too. We will catch you guys on your guys' channel, and if you guys want to do a quick shout out for your guys' stuff, so people know where to find you guys, and then we will close this out.
Yeah, I'm Gemma in the Rough. I'm most active on Instagram and TikTok. Posts on YouTube every now and then, but that's where I am.
Nice.
Yep. You can find me in 2 places. I am at Uncatechized Catholic, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and then I'm also at Desirae Cifuentes on TikTok and Instagram. I don't have a personal YouTube. I'm just focusing on the ministry for there. But yeah, you can find me personally at my name, and you can find the work that I do for Catholics on Uncatechized Catholic.
Awesome. And so you guys can also go to the description below. I'll put all the links there too. We will catch you guys next week, and you guys have a blessed, rest of your week. Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. This was honestly one of my favorite episodes. It was also the first time we've ever had two guests on at the same time. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's something I would love to do in the future. I'd also love to host debates in the future. I think that'd be really cool. I personally am not a great debater. I love to have more like conversations. I love to hear other people's stories, and this channel is more for sharing people's conversions and sharing people's knowledge in the faith, and I love to learn. I just wanted to bring you guys along with me, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode as much as I did. Again, if you made it this far, we love you the most. I just want you to know that right now. Totally kidding. We love everyone the same. But I do want to throw out another reminder to check out Taylor, Jim in the Rough, and Desirae Cifuentes, the Uncatechized Catholic, all in our description below to be able to follow along with the content they're creating, especially for those women out there. You guys will love their content, but they don't make content specifically for women. It is for everyone. You guys will love their channels. And we hope to see you guys every week. You guys can check out last week's episode. We had an Anglican priest on, a former Anglican priest who's now a Catholic missionary, and is such a great conversion story. We'd love love to share that story with you as well. That one you should see in the episode up here at the top. I'll link it there. But other than that, you guys have a great week. We are praying for everybody that watches, everyone that subscribes, everyone that likes. We are praying for you guys, and hopefully that this channel can make some sort of impact on your life. So you guys have a great rest of your week, and we will see you guys next week. God bless.